not looking at. Not looking at my channel. Ooh. Mm. 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 Okay, so I will admit that I did get on the other day, and I messed around with a few other things. I got some cattle up here. I got a cattle train. I got these trains and stuff moving um, a lot better. And of course, I also have another cattle, and I got waiting for like roads and stuff to be built. Mostly because of the fact that uh, if you look here, so the maximum maximum amount that they can produce per workday is only going to be about 5 tons, and I got two of them. That's 10 tons. And then partially it's because of the fact that I built a 150-ton livestock train. That takes a while, so that sits there a while. So it's one of those things like, oh, I could afford to put another one. The thing is, and I might just have to end up building more farms. Because I don't remember. I think one farm can work 3 cattle ranches. Granted, I have 2 farms, but I'm also feeding a food industry, which is, of course, is probably fine. Which is one of the reasons why I decided to move on and build the cattle industry, because this is a moneymaker, and they offset the cost of all the meat that we're importing. And then, of course, also same thing with alcohol. And we cannot store or export alcohol. They're full up on alcohol, so they're also pretty good. Um, I got these things. I might have to put another distribution office. They should be going out to deliver this alcohol and deliver this. But I guess they're out delivering food. That's another thing. I might have just need to have a separate distribution office. Definitely something I'm gonna have to come back and probably redo here, and definitely something that we're gonna think about when we're working on our capital. But you can see we're now getting a lot of money. I've stopped the exporting of oil, I believe. I got rid of both the trains. Because I solved the problem I was having with the fact that fuel was not being produced because the bitumen was it's just full. Building more roads, but we're not making enough asphalt, or we're not able to really store that asphalt. The only time asphalt gets used is when you're making roads, and you can produce bitumen apparently way faster than you can use up your asphalt. Even though I now have 3 construction companies, or not companies, I shouldn't say companies, 3 construction offices working on building roads. Specifically, I've set them up to build roads. And so they're doing all this stuff. And asphalt is moving, and then they're also going to be building. Though we're not going to be able to finish these buildings because we don't have steel. And I've only really was building this stuff just to build stuff and to get some workers for my cattle, and also probably workers for future projects. Because they don't have power. I'm not running power to these buildings yet. They can't enjoy culture, even though that's kind of wait. No, they don't have a bus stop near them. Oh yeah, they do, right here. Of course, a lot of people aren't able to enjoy culture. I probably just need to put in some sports stuff, and they'll be pretty hunky dory. I mean, they're not bad off on the happiness. Um, they got no. I probably should probably put kindergarten and school right here. That's probably what I should do. Let's see here. And not having power, I should definitely probably extend some power lines over there. Not that I had, but I guess not. Actually, let's go ahead. Let's using rubles. Let's actually go ahead. Now they have power. That should make them a little bit happier. There we go. And you see, we're actually doing quite well and nicely on the money because now I have trains. The trains that were coming here to pick up fuel are now picking up fuel and bitumen. This is now producing, which means I no longer have oil to export because all of the oil that I am producing is getting consumed by my refinery. In fact, I probably actually need to um, produce more oil if I can, which I don't think I could fit anymore in here without actually dredging this up. And that is all. Well, I don't know. Let's see if I can I do that. Let's just see. Can I do that? Apparently I can. See, this is why it's nice to have construction offices because it's just way cheaper. And I probably should have been doing this from the beginning. Because there's a lot of oil out here that I'm not using. Hmm. Though I might. Nope. Hmm. Now these roads. Now, that should increase the flow of oil to the refinery and make sure that these fill up nicely. So that these trains get to fill up nicely. Now, part of what I'm doing here is I'm making a slight assumption here that once I get to the point where I need steel, if I fund the construction of the building, which I don't know, yep, it should be cheaper. So I let them do as much as they can. I don't have a lot of public transport. Well, actually, I have this big, huge. Which might tell me that for a large amount of construction, I should probably have even more construction offices, especially since I have 2 road constructing, and I have one building constructing office. Now, obviously the idea is eventually we're going to be working on a steel industry, and like I said, I want to put the steel industry here, which is the capital. So I want to kind of build like kind of an industrial zone. Oh, excuse me. An industrial zone here that because there's iron and coal back here, and then I'll put the steel plant here, and then that way stuff from downtown can move up to the industrial zone, which will be in this region. Mining coal and iron and putting it directly back and forth between well, steel mill. But before I do that, what it is that I want to do is set up a farming industry and food production. And that will be set up here. And then I want to... normally what I do is I'll put a train platform here for citizens, and I'll run my diesel engine. I definitely think for all of this infrastructure that I'm going to want to go electrical. Just because, well, I have a test server set up, and I did stream that yesterday. Forgot to turn my mic on. So I was a little upsetty spaghetti about that. But I found that electrical engines, of course, work very well, and I think even though... since I don't have vehicle fuel up, I don't have to worry about making sure that that's powered. And I also think I might go, and that's the thing, I don't know NFs have the infrastructure right now to do it. It might be something I have to think about worrying, is because the main point that I was trying to do was to see about the trolley buses. And so trolley buses, of course, will run faster, but their construction costs are going to, of course, be a little bit higher. And I currently, because I don't have a steel industry, I also don't have it set up to build my electrical industry either, because laying of cable and stuff. So let's go to the construction office. You can set them up to build, of course, conveyors, and I should have that set up. Conveyor and pop line and electrical wiring. Um, and I'm not sure what vehicles do that. And same thing with railroad construction. I don't have a railroad construction office. I don't currently have the ability to build my own railroads, other than I think maybe I don't have a steel industry. I'd have to import all that steel anyway. I don't have the stuff to do that. But I'm definitely thinking of going electrical, just for the look and feel, and it short back and forth. I think electrical is probably the way to go, and that way we can run our trams and all our other vehicles for getting workers from downtown to the industrial zone, and not having to rely so much on buses. Even though we'll definitely probably have trolley buses and a trolley bus line. I'm not entirely sure. It's one of the things I have to research and look. I really need to look and see how that would look in a Soviet-style city. Before I pick what I really want. So let's see here. So I want to develop this out. So we're going to need a food industry, because as we found, food is a big cost for importing, and it would be a great way to offset the cost of all the stores and stuff we're going to put, so we have nice happy workers, because happy workers are productive workers. And I think I'm going to set my food industry up here. So what I want to do is I want to build an agro farm, set up some fields and stuff, even though this is also going to be home to, there is a good iron deposit here, and that's something to use later. And there's also a good coal deposit up here, which is why I'm thinking of possibly maybe just setting up a mining industry up through here, which also will require us to do, but I don't want to mess with that right now. I think for I think I've built myself into a corner, even though this power plant, by all means, should be producing, I mean, maximum production per workday is 1,400 megawatts of power. That is a lot. There's no way that this city is really using that much power, and that I'm not exporting that much power, because I am selling only 18 megawatts, which is the maximum this power line allows us to sell. That's 18 out of 1,400. There's a lot more power. And then this, using 12 megawatts, it definitely adds up, and I definitely think I could probably power the city based on this, but I'd have to rework a lot of this by electrical wiring. I don't want to do that. I do want to just set up a new power plant that will provide power for this region and probably also other regions. If I had the coal industry set up, which is something I tried to do in another build I was working on, that was actually a different map. I decided to set up, I put my iron, because I didn't want to put my iron or my steel mill here, and thought, well, these can supply my workers with steel mill, but then I had a lot of trouble setting up the trains up to get the iron from here and the coal from here down to here. And I had another power plant here, and I had a power plant here, this power plant for here, and this power plant for all of this stuff, and it was just this huge mess. It ended up being a waste of money, and I actually ran out of money, couldn't produce enough steel. The steel industry was not really supplying the money, and the oil that I usually set up here was not, and power. I had a whole power plant here and oil here. It was just not working. That's because I didn't have a refinery set up. So, no refinery, no, let's slow this down. No fuel, no bitumen, no, well, it's not working very well. Is it really? I definitely think I'll probably set up an oil industry around here to supply a chemical industry that I will probably put in these big cities. And then I can start taking the chemicals and moving them elsewhere for other industries. I definitely will probably set up a clothing, fabric, all that stuff. Also here, I want to make this very much a very industrial area. Um, but, let's see here. So farms and stuff do not need power, but our food industry will. So let's just go ahead and set up. Eventually, though, I am going to want nuclear power. I'm going to, of course, build a coal power plant right now because that's what we have available and that's what we can really use. I don't want to build a reactor because then I'm going to have to deal with importing nuclear fuel. Even though right here 1400 and this will produce 4600 megawatts, that nuclear power plant will be able to supply power for the entire probably region, especially if we have a twin nuclear reactor, which is twice the fun. But it's one of those things where I definitely want to be able to build this once I have all these industries and I can build this myself. I think that'll be a lot of fun. But currently, so eventually I'm going to put up a... I've got to think of how we're going to set this up. We're definitely going to want to build a construction industry here to construct those, to build roads and all kinds of stuff. But first step, I definitely think, is going to getting a electrical industry up, getting a food industry up. That way I can start developing the city without having to take in a whole bunch of extra costs. Which, as we can see, getting a gravel industry, which now I have tons of gravel. I have too much gravel. I ended up making way too much. I should probably start just exporting, but I'm not set up for that. Exporting huge amounts of gravel. I could probably supply a construction industry there with the gravel from up here, but I think this is all kind of a test bed and stuff to fund all my other expansions, and I think having done all of this, I'll be able to do all of this a lot easier and hopefully better. So let's do our power plant, and we're going to fund it with rubles. Now the thing is, we got to think of how do we want to set this up. You know what, I think I might save the nuclear and I might just go ahead and put the coal power plant over here where it's relatively close to everything anyway, and then that way I can have one of my high power lines going towards my industrial and the other one going towards this, which we're definitely going to develop, eventually replacing all of these old style buildings with brand new style buildings and new style setup of the micro areas, the little mini towns, which will allow us to, of course, put our utilities, have a zone where the utilities just all kind of go through. Because it's kind of hard to power the whole thing nicely and sort of neatly, using quotation marks, because it's just, how do I put this? The power lines are kind of just haphazard anyway, and in reality they were kind of haphazard, so it's okay. But we do want an alley where all of those power lines will go. So let's just go ahead. Okay, I don't want to. Oh, shit. This is also why I probably just want to go ahead. Let's just go ahead. I'm probably going to go ahead and put a timber industry up here, and probably also put our gravel industry up here, and then so all our construction stuff we can put up in this region. So let's go ahead and put our first that way, because we're gonna probably need an excavator, and let's just go ahead and get a couple bulldozers. Let's just kind of level some of this down. That should be a little bit. Okay, so let's go ahead and just start designing some of this stuff. Then we'll fill in the kind of construction mode. Now let us place our coal plant. Now, of course, we don't have as nice of a selection of coal as up farther north, but it should be good enough. Ah, okay. Okay, now this is a coal mine, right? So I'm always kind of worried because they're right next to each other that I've accidentally chosen the wrong one. And here's the problem. Okay. Which I know it's not true that I'm missing bricks, because I have a ton of bricks. It's all these bricks. Uh, I think it's one of those things where if I wanted, I'd have to redesign all these trains, and then if I sent a train line down here, I could just dump off this coal and probably also like power this power plant with the coal I'm making up there, and I don't really need to build this coal mine here, but I'm going to. Oh, that's right. I need. Don't know how well that's gonna work, but oh well. Oh shoot. Did I set these? I bet I did. Okay, that's all working nicely. That was one of the things where I probably should just planned it all out and then waited a while to execute it. Cause I gotta wait for my money to build back up. Before I start actually building my farming stuff, because like I said, I'm gonna need to be able to lay down tracks. Cause I think I'll put like a warehouse or something here, so that when a diesel engine come up, drop off food, the food can be carried to a food factory, which I might have more than one eventually. I'm not sure. Um, I'm going to pause here and investigate some dinner. And then when we come back, hopefully I'll have a nice chunk of money, and then we can continue working on developing our capital, building that food industry, so we can finally start working on having a steel industry. Right now, as you can see, right, this is just because of the fact that these aren't full yet. Yeah. Because this should produce far more coal than we will actually need. Although again, I've kind of set this up probably fairly poorly um, by setting all of this up right in front of it. Now that I think about it, because getting trains in and out of here will probably be pretty difficult. Except for maybe if I can somehow. Nah, that's just not gonna work. Probably have to build. Um, probably have to build it over here and then set up a conveyor system that hoists it from here. uh, on up to the train loading, and then have the train move the coal from here into the steel mill, which will probably go around here. And then the iron will be up in here. This is definitely where I'm going to have to run my high voltage. I think the high voltage will run down. I'm going to need to split it at some point. So I have one running into the steel mill, and then one running over to a transformer to deliver power to these areas, which, because my iron mine will need power. I'll probably have to set up my quarries, maybe down through here. These are some good places to put some quarries, so I can get my own construction business, and of course, cut my expenses even more, because then I'll be able to build my own roads. Even though I currently don't have oil. Again, this is a problem that I've created for myself. And it might be a time for me to relook at these tracks, obviously, since I have plenty of bitumen, it probably wouldn't be that big of a deal actually to get tracks to come this way, cross over, and come all the way down here. So I can set up an asphalt plant down here. Get my gravel, get asphalt, cement, all that stuff. So I got tons of prefabs, all the stuff up here, but it's one of those things. Actually, these are boards. I might have to set up some train lines that go down here and connect with the main line that goes through here to drop all that stuff off just here. I just set up some drop off. Maybe actually just set up a second thing here with a cargo and have everything connected to where I can just drop off the stuff that I'm producing here. They don't have just, an aggregate for the depositing of gravel to a point, setting up another distribution to move all the construction materials. I don't know. See, this is where it's getting way too complicated and possibly just to try to cut my costs slightly instead of just building up a whole new industry, which I probably just should do anyway. Because I have plenty of lumber and stuff. It's just it's the bitumen. I just need to run a train to run bitumen down here. But that's gonna be expensive. Anyway, go investigate dinner. And I'll probably be back.